afternoon, sir. I'd like to take this opportunity to slightly introduce you to whatever extent I can and welcome you on board. Dominic Sansoni is a celebrated Sri Lankan photographer who knew and worked with Geoffrey Bawa for really long. He also runs the Barefoot Gallery, which is a must-see destination whilst any one of you is in Colombo. And sir, I request you to introduce yourself further and join the conversation. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you very much. And I'm really honored to be invited to speak to you. Vinod is a brave man. And I totally understand if all of you leave the conversation. Okay, so here I am. I'm Sri Lankan. I'm going to just try something. I'm a photographer. I also do other things as well. I went to art school in England. I was very fortunate that the foundation course I went to way back in 1976 was a 2-year foundation course. That foundation course has now been reduced to a year. I then went to a diploma in photography, whatever that means. I don't have a piece of paper, so I promise you I'm unqualified. Dear Geoffrey, in fact, I'm not going to show you anything to do with Geoffrey Bawa today. But yes, I was fortunate in that because of my mum, who's 93 and a few yards away from me in the front of the house. Now, back in 1964, she was an artist. She started working with color on cloth. I don't think she has ever so much as woven a single inch of fabric in her life, and I don't think she's going to start now. But her interest was working with color. And so I've grown up with this thing which began in our home of just putting color onto cloth. In fact, just recently, last day, I've been having to put together a portfolio of her work, not as anything, someone to do with textiles, but as to her own artist, what she does as a painter, as a designer, and as a cartoonist. Myself, I guess, I was very lucky. I came back, and as one hopes, I'd come back. I was just taking photographs in Sri Lanka, which were things I was interested in. And it's with the passage of time, you begin to learn why one might have been interested in things. By the way, I must be clear, I'm not an artist. I'm not an art photographer. And for the first time in my life, I now have an artist statement, which is the most terrifying thing that people have. So mine is only 4 words long, travels with... Oh, I love that train. I love that train.
Just to show.
That's good. There's hope. My artist statement is very simple. It just says travels with no agenda. That's the beginning and end of it. So try and share a screen. Let me see how this works. I'm going to click on an image and just see it. So I'm just very far away from you. This is Adam's Bridge, which connects us with India. And these pictures were taken when we were commissioned, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Sebastian and I, we were invited to do an aerial book on Sri Lanka. It's very, I think we've had a patron who said, oh, you know, we'll give you a helicopter and you can do whatever you like to do. That is an extraordinarily expensive affair, but it was a very big company. And amazingly, they gave us a totally free hand to do what we wanted, which was just wonderful. So I just thought I'd share a picture of Adam's Bridge. So here we are. That's us, not very far from where you are. And I live down in Colombo. And this is my home, and it's been my inspiration, and I love it. But So this camera of mine has taken me all over the world. I was given a wonderful break soon after I began, when a very fine creative director saw a picture of mine, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I need to use those pictures." That encounter, which was way back in 1980 or 81, I think then took me to something like over 30 countries around the world taking pictures. I was, when I look back, I'm quite amazed by where my camera took me. Um, but then, and one of my great loves. So I'll just give you a little bit of a. I've got a few pictures to show to you on Sri Lanka, and this is just a random selection of pictures from when we working on that aerial book. We've got our old archaeological sites. This one is Anuradhapura. I'm going to just run through these things. And it was lovely to fly over a sandbar, which looked like the north of Sri Lanka. This could be Jaffna over there, and Mannar. And it just gave us, or gave me, after so many years, a completely different perspective of this, if I say so myself, this rather pretty island that we live on. I've always been interested in pattern. Don't ask me why. I have no explanation for what I do. This is an old Dutch fort called Hammond Heel, right at the north of the island in Jaffna. Bits of useless information. A lovely woman called Ina de Silva, a contemporary of my mother's, and her friend Lucky Senanayake, the great artist, they actually rented and leased Hammond Heel for a period. Sadly, I was too young to ever know when they were there. But that's a lovely thought if you knew those two people. It's now taken over by the Navy again. And then just flying over and looking at what happens from the air. Again, I'm interested by pattern and geometry for inexplicable reasons. And that's in a lagoon off the west coast or on the west coast. And I think it's a fish farm. I'm not sure what it is, but I love that sort of bit of precise geometry in the middle of nothing. Here's another version of that. So it's nice to have these little mysteries, or I enjoy them to look at. Glass houses. I guess growing some terrible vegetables fed with chemicals or some stuff. Nearly all the harvesting in Sri Lanka of our paddy fields in the last 10, 15 years has changed to mechanical harvesting. That brought a big difference to the landscape. But, you know, what happens. If that's what's efficient, it's great. And guess what? It produces very beautiful things to look at. That's a destination that most people would come and visit if they were in Sri Lanka. It's Sigiriya over there, and a rock that overlooks it. And that is certainly a visit. That's in the middle of the island. And it had these wonderful gardens, and surrounded by a moat. And it's really quite an extraordinary place. Up in the tea country, I guess all of you have something very similar to this. This is back again to the coast, an estuary of a river. And that's it for the aerial ones. So I'm going to take you to the Yemen.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate to travel there. I think it was about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It so happens that my stepdad, who's an academic, his name is Ronald Lucock. He's an architectural historian at Cambridge University and a couple of other places too. He also started the Town Foundation. And Ronald, unbelievably, was one of the people responsible for the saving of a city called Sana'a. I wish I'd traveled with him 25 years ago, but I didn't. I traveled a few years ago. I can't think of a nicer a better introduction to the Arab world than to first go to the Yemen. They're the friendliest, most warm, they're just wonderful people. And so I just spent 2 weeks there, and I would just go for a walk. Oh my gosh, and it's full of magical places like this. This is a town on the top of this little hill. It's called Bet Bous. It's now abandoned. I think there are 4 families who live there. But it's just magic. So I'm going to just, and these extraordinary faces. What would I like to be as a photographer? What would I sometimes wish for? I sometimes wish I could just immediately, by clicking my fingers, I could change going from being a man to a woman, you know, because that opens up a whole different world to one. As a man, especially in some parts of the world, it's very difficult. It's hard to get into a home, and quite understandably so. So that would be a dream wish for mine, where I could suddenly have a chance to see a different side of things. This is going back to Beirut. And later on, I went into one of these rooms up here, which was a kitchen, and to see, I don't think I have the photograph here, to see the kitchen molded from clay is magic. There's this wonderful place. And this is an old, lovely, this is a caravanserai in the middle of Sana'a. And I can't imagine how old that was. And actually, when you hear that name, caravanserai, it's so evocative. This is the first place I went to for breakfast on my first morning. And that's when you first discover Yemeni hospitality, because I would sit down. Of course, I don't speak a word of anything. And the gentleman on my left and right is suddenly shouting at me and insisting that he puts a plate in front of you, takes food off his own plate and puts it on your plate, and insists that he won't eat another mouthful till you are eating as well. Great people, and these amazing, amazing faces. Have any of you been to the Yemen? Anyone have friends in the Yemen out there?
I have been to Yemen as a child. I don't remember much, but
wow, really? How lovely.
My parents lived there for about 2 years.
How amazing. And I guess they lived in Sana'a?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Another place on my dream list to visit, we'll put it all on a dream list, is an island called Socotra. In fact, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. On the south, off the coast of South Yemen. And the whole vegetation of that island is just completely different to anything else in the world. My gosh, I'm so excited. Someone who's spent 2 years there. I only spent 2 weeks there. Yeah. You know what the Yemen is? I think a lot of you are connected, have some interest in architecture.
All of them are architects. Most of them are architects, sir.
Oh my God,
Most of them.
terrifying. Yeah. Okay, you know what they don't know how to do in Yemen? They don't know how to build steps. So I arrive in Sana'a. I haven't looked it up properly. I'm checked into this, it's an old house, and you have to walk up 3 floors to your room, and I arrive and they can't build steps. You know, they don't know how to build steps. The first one is 6 inches, the next one is 4 inches, the next one is 18 inches, you know, and you're staggering up there, and I collapse on a bed and I think I'm dying. Of course, what it is, it's altitude. It's Sana's at an altitude, and I didn't realize, oh, you know, you better take it easy for a day. But what a magical place. It really is quite amazing. And people.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'm very, I think as we all are and might be, I'm sensitive when I travel. I'm sensitive what I do with a camera. And it's so, you know, photographing women is something you do with care, and you don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to upset myself. So this is just 4 ladies walking down the street. but it is. When I went to Sana, I thought, oh God, I'm going to be disappointed. I've heard so much about it. And I'm sure it's not going to be like that. I mean, it's going to be, but that's what it is. That's what it is. And I feel very sad to think about what's happening there right now. And amazingly, I got in just in the nick of time. If any of you would like to see more, if you did go to this website I have called Three Blind Men, please, it's not Three Blind Mice. Okay, we don't do nursery rhymes. It's Three Blind Men. And you will see not just my pictures, look out for the pictures of my colleague, Sebastian Persingis. In fact, that is someone maybe I should try and share a link with you. You must check out his own website. SebastianPersingis.com. He's photographed two houses there in the south of Sri Lanka, one by Tadao Ando, and the other by Shigeru Ban.
Yeah, okay.
And both those houses were by these two great Japanese architects for the same family.
Right.
This whole wonderful, enormous area that overlooks the south of Sri Lanka. Look at Sebastian's work for, firstly, his eye is unbelievable. And he's turned those two houses, he's made a virtual book which you can read through.
Okay.
You will learn more from him than you can ever learn from me. And he's a great guy. So those are just a few pictures from Yemen. Where shall we go to next? I think I'll end with some. Okay, you want to see your architects? Can I show you a dream home? Here's a dream home for me. That is a dream home. This was, gosh, this must have been a few weeks after the tsunami. Immediately after that, I was traveling a lot to South India because I was documenting the work of an organization called SOS Children's Villages, who were helping. And amazing house survived. Houses further inland behind it all got washed away. There's a hut to the left of this which also survived, just a hut, but that's another story. But to me, that is bliss. It's just magic. Okay, here's a few from Sri Lanka. Anyone got any questions? You're allowed to ask me anything at all.
Wow.
But there's one question you can't ask me is what camera do you use? That's the only question that gets me annoyed. Cameras don't take photographs. People take photographs. Yeah.
What space is this, sir?
Okay, so now we're in Sri Lanka. And this is just a very small selection of some practically random pictures. We're up in Jaffna again on the island of Kites. And this is a Catholic church. Yeah, this is just looking wonderful. What is very sad, so this is photographed either during conflict or most of these were done during the conflict. And what is really sad, post-conflict, so many years later, that terrible things happen. People want to make the church look better. I fear the altar is now surrounded by bathroom tiles, and there's no other word for it. I'm Catholic, so I take on the church with a sword in each hand, and they are just terrible what they do. And I love the way they destroy these beautiful faithist intentions. They're doing it for the love of the church and all, but it's a disaster anyhow. So these things I've looked at.
Wow.
So if I have one with anyone, this is who I'll be sending off to. This is Srimas. As you can see, he's a man well-fitted. Please note the tattoos on each shoulder. The area of North Colombo that I've been photographed, I spotted him one day. I thought, oh God, I better get to know him. It's better eyesight. And I went and said hi. And he's the gentlest, sweetest one you know. And he said, my name is Srimas. said how you remember is Sri Lanka Muscat. So what Sri Mas means great meat. So he says, I have a great meat shop. He said, now that's how you remember my name. He lives a few meters away from the Easter bombing last year. Great guy, lovely guy, and wonderful neighborhood. So how I got to that neighborhood, you can see I get distracted and go off in different directions. So for a while, I hadn't been able to leave Colombo as often as I could because of commitments over here to do with other things that I deal with. And so, I was saying, oh God, I can't go to Kerala. I haven't been to Jaffna for a while. I haven't gone to the East Coast. I can't go up country. I was full of yeah. And I thought, shut up. What's on your doorstep? Excuses, you're just fooling yourself. This is, I don't know, 4 miles from where I live. This is, well, also closer to that area. Oh, gosh, we can scold you guys. You got big trouble now. I wish I had the before and after. This is a beautiful small hotel built during British Victorian times called the Castle Hotel. Sadly, there's a big company, I think it's Tata, who then all this area here, it was all taken down, and they're doing, this is in the heart of Colombo. It was a fantastic neighborhood. 600 meters from the Taj Hotel in Colombo, to give you a sense of where it is. It's right there, and they destroyed it. But I would love to show you how they then did a facsimile, is the only word, of the wonderful Castle Hotel. We need prizes for bad architecture. We really need to. We need to call these guys out, okay? We need to call them out. Look at this. That's the interior of that hotel.
Wow.
And to me, that is bliss. You can keep all your designers. You can keep the whole lot. Architecture and without architects, and design without designers. Magical. So, these are just things I go and look at. This is going back to that neighborhood I was talking about. And in the end, I was quite amazed by the accent I got here. By the way, the first picture taken in this neighborhood was taken by my lovely wife, Nazreen, who's hovering somewhere around me. I hope that. And she took a much better picture than me, and that really annoyed me. Because, I'm the photographer, she's not the photographer. But it was of a shrine. I'll try and find it for you. That shrine is a Catholic shrine, but a little bit special for reasons I'll try and explain. So this is when they were bringing neighborhood in Colombo. I went in to just photograph the remnants of it, or process. And, anyway, I also like the photograph. It's crazy that we like these photographs of destruction. I'm sure these two have something going on between them, This is also in that same neighborhood. And sadly, all gone now, replaced with badly designed apartment blocks. And these two sisters, these are areas where they look down and say, people live badly, it's all congested, it's this, that, something else, they don't know how to live. You tell me if this isn't a beautiful neighborhood. It's magical. Okay, completely different track. So here's a little Catholic chapel on a tea estate, which I found recently. I was doing some research on tea. And you go inside. And to me, it's as much a Hindu kovil as it is a Christian shrine. And it's, of course, everyone working on the estates, nearly everyone there is Tamil. And I love that influence that they've brought into it. It's magical. And these are not, I'm not doing art here, I'm doing stuff. So this is up in the hills. This is a rather beautiful temple called Lankatiraka near Kandy. How many of you have been to Sri Lanka? Have a few of you been here yet? Not yet.
I've been to Sri Lanka, not to this place.
And you went to Lanka Tiraka?
No, I haven't been to there.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And please remember when, yeah, okay, I won't say it. I was going to say it. You know, there's more to. This is St. Anthony's. This is one of the churches that was blown up during that Easter bombing. And the gentleman with the tattoos on his shoulders lives, I don't know, 150 meters from here. And I've been photographing. So if I stand at that front door and do a sweep to my right-hand side, a 500-meter sweep, I've been going back to that neighborhood now for, gosh, I think 12 years. And so I'm also now part of the woodwork. They don't even look at me any longer, which is bliss. But I've found so much to do there. Okay. Okay, I'll show you one of my favorite pictures of all time. And I wouldn't even know why it's one of my favorites. And I think this must have been taken maybe 30 years ago in Mahabalipuram. You know, I can't make this thing full screen, which is just driving me mad over here. Hold on, I think I've got it. Oh, okay. And I just love that. There's something quiet and intimate, I think, in that moment, which is nice. But you know, this is where you've got to be careful, where I've got to be careful, we all have to be careful. Now, I'm going on here telling you how much I love this photograph and what I remember. What I'm also remembering is the smell of the salt air. I'm remembering that morning, I'm remembering that moment. I've got other things in my mind. And so I'm telling myself, oh my gosh, you know, Dominic, that's a superb photograph. That's why when I work on a book, I would always I need an editor you can trust. Someone who looks at your best work and just throws it out. Because I might be, or as the person who's taken the picture, you might be attached to it. But you know what? It just needs to go in the waste paper basket. And I've had the great blessing of working with an artist called Nelun Haraskama, who's a great designer. And in the end, she's the person I go to just, you know, empty my mind. Her husband is one of our great photographers, Lakshman Nadraja, and also one of the finest minds I know. Okay.
The question is, in architectural photography, what is that one thing that fascinates you the most? Is it the details, the perspectives, angles, frames? What is it that fascinates you the most?
I think it's all of those things. You know, it's all of those things. Okay, I'll now watch me be clever and avoid the question. Yeah. So if I'm asked to photograph a building for someone, or if I have to record something for someone, what I do try is to make sure that someone looking at action, because pictures are edited down. Sometimes a house ridiculously is edited down to 2 pages in a book. If you're lucky, it's not 1 page. If you're lucky, it may be 6 pages. Is that you as the viewer can read the house. You will understand, there's the staircase. All right, I can now connect because I see a little bit of the staircase. That leads to something else or whatever. Details, light, can look at Sebastian Pasingas' light on those 2 houses. The pictures are in black and white. They are stunning. Those things interest me. I'm going to show you someone else's photograph. Okay, let's look at some different pictures. I'm going to show you some of Sebastian's pictures, yeah? And we look at his pictures. So those are Sebastian's photographs of number 11. You see how I avoided your question, yeah? Mastery of doing that. But here's Sebastian Sebastian, lovely collection of, I'll try and show it in a way which I think works quite nicely over here. We'll do that, and we'll do I'll show you a few of my pictures in a moment of some house. I'll find them. But, you know, he's looking at all the things you mentioned. He's looking at light. You can read a picture. You can understand that you can walk down a corridor. Lovely light. You can see there are steps that come up and steps that go up. Others, maybe just a detail. I'll try and show you some. I haven't got any photographs. Okay, I think these are. By the way, I think the person who will be most amused by a lot of the interest and by what people say about him is Geoffrey himself. I think he would shy away. So these are some of my pictures of Lunuganga. And so I'm looking at different things. I would try and describe it. We've got an entrance. This was quite magical for me. I've been photographing this garden since 1978 or 77 or something like that. And this is a fairly recent picture, and I'd never seen that before. It's just that you walk up the path at a different time, and this whole plant is beautifully lit up like it's just beautiful lighting on this thing. And this is Lunuganga in the rain. And there's another picture with rain, which I think is this one. Okay.
Wow.
I'll just go back to that. I'm amazed that I can even still operate a camera. Do you see how incompetent I am on the thing? But it's little things like this. And it's a thing of discovery all along. So there are two things. I'm going to go a different way. As a photographer, there are different things that happen. I will be sent somewhere I've never been. And then you go off with, I do a lot of research before I go off somewhere. But you arrive with a sense of excitement because you're going to see something you don't know. You're going to meet, you're going to have lunch with someone you've never met before. And so that's the whole thing. It's new. Then there's a second, something else happens. You have to go back and have lunch again with the same person. So now you've had certain conversations, you've got to know each other a bit. And maybe, I don't want to use something, you know, I was going to say you dig deeper, forget about digging deeper. You lie, you know, you look for other things. So that sense of excitement has been probably replaced by a sense of a little bit of knowledge. And then you go and then look at that. And this is the most magical, magical, magical place. I was sent there because of Geoffrey's 100th birthday. I'll try and show it to you. You're going to kill me. And they asked me whether I would produce something. And so go and look at. I was really terrified about that because what was I going to do this time? And I had no idea. I turned up. I had to do some portraits. I got that out of the way. The portraits of the people who actually keep the garden working. The gardeners, everyone, they're the soul of the garden. And I didn't know what on earth I was going to do. Because you'll find that when, this is something I do, I know there are some things I'm a little bit competent at. So that's kind of, you know, run the 50 meters. I'm quite comfortable with the 50 meters. So when I need to, I'll go and run the 50 meters and I'll know my timing will be fairly good. And then sometimes you have to stop, take a deep breath and say, no, you're just playing in your safe zone. Now go and run 100. And I will do this many times during a day when I'm on assignment, because I find myself going into my own safety zone of producing safe pictures. So I went down to Lunuganga. I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. And then just by chance, I saw something. And please don't, it was absolutely by chance, okay? We start with something like this, and we're trying to take it, and what I like most about is the title I got for it. The title is magical. And I started looking at Lunuganga in detail, which I've never done before. So this is a literal photograph, in that you can see it's a piece, I hope, obviously, a piece of furniture with, very careful. I think it's fungus. I got corrected on this. You have to call all those things by their right name. And then this took me, I went off looking at, and actually it was great fun. I'm looking at, do you know what I'm looking at? Can anyone make a guess? Any guesses? It's, okay, I'm just,
a tree's bark.
I'm looking at details on the tree, you know, and I was amazed by what I'd found. And I'd walked past these, I guess, all my lifetime, and I'd never looked at it in this way. But someone missed the making of a really good video. If anyone had observed me trying to photograph this stuff, it must have looked hilarious. It must have really looked, not just hilarious, it would have looked ridiculous. So I put in one or two like this. So then I had to produce a publication. And how did I do this in the end? I did it on, I'll give you an overview of the pictures. By the way, I think I've run over my time. I should stop. Yeah.
You can run it fast also, yeah.
This is unedited. So I had to produce a book, which was one of those books which you fold out. It's done on a sheet of paper. And if you can see how, that was terrifying to try and get that correct, because once you start, you can't stop. It has to go through. But it produced this document, and there was only one copy, and which is at Lunuganga, and it's dirty and used and thumbed now. I will try, I have to, make one more copy for them, which will then go into their archive. But that was exciting for me. I'm sorry, I've taken so much of your time. I'm going to end with showing you a little picture, a few pictures of one of my favorite parts of the world. So my first journey to India was when I was 15 years old. I was put on a plane by myself. I flew from Colombo to Chennai. I think someone then put me on another plane, and I ended up in what I call Calcutta. And to stay with my dear aunt, God bless her. It's funny enough, with her broken arm, a few yards away from her. My favorite aunt to introduce me to nightlife, to crazy things, to wonderful things. And she was given the task of driving a car from Calcutta. She had to deliver it to Colombo. And that was my first, we journeyed from down south across to Hyderabad, to Bangalore, to Chennai, to Rameswaram. And what an introduction to one of the countries in the world. And I'm not saying that to flatter you, okay, guys? So this is pictures when I went back to Naga. I did a lot of work during the tsunami. Someone actually gave me a very small grant. I think I got $500 or something. And I was allowed to go back, not allowed, I went back to Nagapatnam to go and look at vernacular architecture. I don't really even want to call it vernacular architecture. I just went to photograph stuff there. You will find all of that on my website. It's a constant inspiration for me. I still go back to look at things I might have shot 40 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, to re-edit or re-look at things I've done, which is also, I think, something you need to do. You go back and re-look at something you've written, or you might look again at how or why you designed a house. But me, just walking around is magical. So, different things attract me. Architecture, I'm afraid. what I really love here is that really functional drain. You know, that's a good drain. We all, you know, you need drain like that. And I mean that sincerely. And this wonderful gentleman there. This was in Puducherry. So most of these are on the East Coast, Coromandel Coast. This is a gentleman showing me how to get to where I need to get to. Boy on the left just had a haircut from his grandfather. And you'll notice he's from, I think, a Malay family. And this picture, of course, you all know the title of it. This is in Tranquebar, and this picture is called Holy Smoke. Yeah, so I just pulled out a few things to show you.
I just wanted to ask you that do you do any homework for getting a perfect shot, or is it happening at the moment? Especially when you are like, I have seen some pictures of this Lunuganga. There is a tree without leaves. So do you wait for any changes in nature to happen, some seasonal changes for getting that perfect shot? That you have shown some picture of that agrarian landscape where harvest is happening. So is it planned or the plant decision, or is it happen moment that click is happening right at the moment?
Well, let's deal with the aerial shot. You know, we were in a helicopter. That's just by chance. You know, we definitely had an idea of what we wanted to fly over, where we wanted to go. You have to do quite a bit of planning before you take off in a machine, because you need to know where you're getting to. And it also needs things like petrol. That was interesting. We needed more petrol after we'd been over Adams Bridge. Going over Adams Bridge was great. There was a lovely moment because we all have to wear headphones so you can hear the pilot and the control tower. And there was a lovely moment when we were heading, I've got my sense of direction correct, I guess we were heading west up Adams Bridge in your direction, where very politely Indian air control says, greetings, how are you? Where are you coming? You know, what's the plan? So we just said we were on an excursion and then headed back. No, I don't really plan things. I think, you know, that there was a photograph of Lunaganga of rain dripping into a big pot. It just happened to be raining that there to wait for the rain, but you will respond to something. But planning, I do an enormous amount. I don't do a planning into this first shot. I remember when I got to Mauritius, which is a small island, and the airport is somewhere in the south, and they put me in an awful, awful hotel in the north, a 7-star hotel. That's my idea of hell. Because part of my contract was I would only stay in a guest house, not any hotel. And from the airport to the hotel is normally a 1-hour drive. The poor driver who met me in the morning, we eventually got to the hotel. I arrived at about 10 o'clock in the morning. We got to the hotel at night. I just arrived, but I knew exactly what I wanted to see between the airport. And he was amazed. He said, have you been to Mauritius before? I said, no way, just this is my research and I want to do it now. Because I like to just get into it straight away. Yeah. But do I plan an individual shot? No, I do not.
Asked to him, so I'll just ask to everyone here. The architectural photograph that we see, the inside, it's made for people. It's for people to use, but it's always devoid of people when it's photographed. Why is it necessary to see the space empty so that we understand the architecture, or people are not necessary, or what?
Not that I have much idea about architectural photography, but I think the idea is to keep the structure and composition in the in focus, and the more we have elements in the framing, the more in distractions it might be. I mean, one of the reasons people also amateurs like me go for black and white photography as compared to in colored ones is also because it reduces the distractions a bit. I mean, it's a lot more to like manage in a colored version. Similarly, when you are like in photographing or like in building from inside, outside, or from any angle, I mean, if you have a lot of movements happening, if you have other elements which you have not accounted for, it might be a little more difficult for you to just manage. But again, I might be completely out of context here because I don't have much of an idea, Vinod, in this case. But
no problem. I think you are the only other photographer in this whole group. That's why. Thanks for joining, Indrajit. Thank you. Yeah.